Hi everyone, and welcome to the Virgo Weekly Illumination Reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot and Meaning-Based Spiritual Coaching Services. I am Lauren. Hi and welcome. So these readings are meant to engage you with the Triad of Engagement, which focuses on utilizing the three core principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation to show how when you apply these three principles together throughout the day, you can unlock and bring awareness to the unique, internal, authentic self, the abilities and dreams and hopes and desires that make you you, and how to better connect those and engage them with your external environment to be able to experience and realize your personal spiritual potential. All right, and purpose. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to pull a advice card here to start the reading to engage us with the principle of curiosity. And because we are stepping into the energy of being curious, where generally a question is involved, we are going to form a question around the energies of the card that is selected here. And it's meant for you to take what is a very general reading and make it an individualized experience for yourself, because this is a question that you're going to be asking yourself throughout the week to bring awareness to some part of yourself that Spirit would like you to rediscover, because it's important for you to then connect that with your external environment, and it'll help keep you in line with not only experiencing your spiritual purpose, but keeping you in line with acting in accordance with yourself, helping to manifest what lies within you in your external environment. All right, so when we're thinking about the principle of curiosity, we are starting with this because this is what helps us open up to what we don't know about ourselves and what we don't know about our external environment. And we want to step into that energy of a curious child, a child who doesn't know enough about the world to be jaded or have negative thought patterns already kind of ingrained, which is what happens when we move from childhood into adulthood. So we're kind of breaking through those barriers of already been there and done that, or when I do this, this always happens. Instead, we're breaking through and saying, what do we not know? Because there's always something about our experience that we're not going to know. And this is how we get to tap back into the awe and wonder and magic of life again. Okay, so the card that came out was Intuitive Nudges. Very interesting. I love the third eye component up here. And it says, intuition is the language of the soul. We are all born aware with a profound sense of inner knowing. Intuition is one of the greatest gifts we possess, which keeps us connected to our higher selves, the universe, and to our divine spirit. Now, Virgo, when I was tapping into your energy, as I was shuffling your cards here, I got a very clear image of a melon. And I don't always get intuitive hits when I am stepping into the energy of signs, but with you guys, I got a very clear image of a melon, like a cantaloupe, but more precisely a honeydew melon. And if any of you have ever had a honeydew melon and you've cut it open, you notice that they have a lot of seeds. And there was this, what came through with that imagery was that you guys are sitting with a lot of potential within you, a lot of seeds, but you have a hard exterior, and then there's this mushy layer, this highly vulnerable layer, which is actually all the sweet stuff when you think about it, that flesh of the melon. And then within that lies the seeds. And so the message that came through was getting through the vulnerable part, getting through that to realize that that's the sweet stuff, that if you're able to kind of cut yourself open, and I don't mean literally, this is not about hurting yourself, this is about cutting through that layer of that protective barrier that perhaps you have put up against the world because you have become either jaded with regards to some aspect of your life, or you've just been hurt so many times that you have this protective layer. You literally have a skin built up around exposing the best and sweetest parts of yourself. And this week, it's about breaking through to realize when you knock down that barrier and you allow that vulnerable part of yourself to be seen and experienced, even by yourself, not just by others, but by yourself, that's where you're going to realize the true potential that lies within you. All of these seeds that are meant to be seen and planted, but you have to get through that really soft part of yourself. And you have to be able to let it, if you think about a melon, and this is kind of, strange way, maybe perhaps the element of Scorpio is coming in here a little bit of this death and rebirth. But when you think about a melon has to actually break down, die, rot, for those seeds to then be allowed to plant themselves. And there's a little bit of that there's this little bit of this kind of letting some part of yourself kind of rot and fall away. Realize that it is the meat of who you are, but that it's actually going to feed the seeds within, and that this is what Spirit's kind of asking you to break into yourself. Now, with intuitive nudges, I feel like this kind of reads right into what I was seeing, in that Spirit is asking you to open yourself up to your greatest gifts. And they're trying to get you to, Spirit is trying to get you to really tap in through that inner knowing that the best parts of yourself are lying a little dormant right now. And I see here when it says intuition is one of the greatest gifts we possess, which keeps us connected to our higher selves, the universe, and our divine spirit. That when we put up a protective barrier on the outside, let's say to getting hurt again in love, or getting hurt again in work, getting hurt again in whatever aspect you feel that you've had to put up this protective barrier, that we also put up a protective barrier between us and Spirit, between us and our intuition. And that's when we really start to feel alone, or we start to truly lose sight of our spiritual purpose, of connection to our engagement with our everyday life, because we are so blocked. Now, I talk a lot about this action, because we all create these barriers as we move from childhood into adulthood. And if you'd like to kind of go take a deep dive, I actually have a video in the link below for the Triad of Engagement, which really breaks down in a visual way exactly what I'm talking about. But when we do, put this protective barrier around us, and we are disconnected now from our everyday experience, two things can happen. We can either go into kind of a land within ourselves of almost this, I don't want to say like imaginary land, but it's a fantasy world. It's a world where we exist within ourselves. And sometimes that can can be beautiful. That's where we can actually find our creative spark. But it can also be detrimental in that we end up disconnecting from the external world of where we need to be of service to the greater collective experience, and we withdraw within ourselves. And that's where we can get locked in a mental state, we can get locked in an emotional state, but we are not engaging with our external environment. We're living within instead of in this dynamic interplay between within and without. Or the reverse can happen, where we get so stuck on the other side of that barrier that we are so living out here, we ignore within. We ignore what our feelings are trying to tell us. We ignore what our mind is trying to tell us. And it's almost like our inner body is trying to push out, but we're out here, almost like an out-of-body experience. So you guys could be experiencing one or the other. You could be kind of living almost in a fantasy world within, in kind of an illusionary state, where you start to see the world either as all negative or all good or whatever, but you're not engaging actively. You're not actually bringing yourself into alignment with your spiritual purpose because you're trapped within your own body. Or the reverse is happening. You're almost having an out-of-body experience where you're sort of disconnected, that you're not able to feel deep emotions or be able to think clearly and kind of get into your body and be able to feel through intuition what's happening. So this is a message that's really coming through strongly, is that intuition is asking you to break that barrier down. The spirit is trying to come in and allow you to see what's within right now. Allow you to see all of those seeds that are waiting to be planted. I really feel a high sense of creativity. This card is blue and brown. I don't know if it's kind of hard to tell, might come across more as red, but it is blue and brown. And it makes me think of the sky with the earth, that there is this strong component coming through of really coming down from up here and planting, getting into the tangible, coming back to reality almost, and being able to get your hands in the ground and plant those seeds. So if you're going to ask yourself a question this week, Virgo, what I would ask yourself is, what side of that barrier are you on? Are you trapped in a world of a fantasy, or it could be a happy fantasy or a dark fantasy? It could be in a world of illusion where whatever pain has caused you to create that barrier, you're kind of trapped reliving it almost. Or are you on the outside of that, where you are almost in a place of denial? You're just kind of going through the motions. And if somebody was to actually stop you and say, what's going on in here? You'd say, I don't really know. I don't really want to, I don't go through that mushy part of myself anymore. I don't go into my head. I just go through the motions. I'm just out here. I don't even want to come back in here right now. So which side of that barrier are you on? And as you go through the week, really try to be as openly observant of yourself as possible. When we think of curiosity, it's almost like having to look at yourself as somebody who doesn't know who you are. And this is what's going to, again, curiosity is what breaks through these barriers. It's what allows us to see something that we've been missing. So ask yourself that question throughout the week to help kind of bring awareness to your current state and the state of your connection to your intuition, to spirit. Okay, now I'm going to pull a energy oracle card for the concept of courage. And courage is where we get to step into our personal power. So we go from being curious, opening our eyes up freshly to what we don't know, and then we move into courage, where we get a chance to have courage to take conscious action. And what does conscious action mean? That means that we are aware of the actions we take, and we are personally bringing ourselves into every action we decide to take. This is where it can get a little difficult. It takes courage to be aware of the actions you take. Why? Because this is where you get a chance to start to realize that this is where your true control lies within your life. The true power of yourself is in the actions that we either choose to take or not to take. And in reality, we cannot change our external environment. We cannot control it. We cannot control what I like to call the seat of destiny. That's where change comes in. That's where we get pushed by destiny, by spirit, by the universal grand divine design, or call it God, call it whatever you choose to call it, that we get pushed to then engage ourselves with those changes, with those challenges. And that's how we continue to unlock parts of ourselves, all to better experience our full spiritual potential. But where we have courage here, what can happen is that this is where we're stepping into our seat of free will. And if we choose not to engage with the changes and the challenges that come through our external environment, then this is where we lose our control. This is where we lose our engagement with life, and we can forget what it feels like to act in a courageous way. because it's hard to keep yourself aware at all times, because the more that you're aware of the actions you take, the more you realize just how much control you really have over your experience, even in the ability to control your own perspective. But it's also about realizing that we have personal responsibility to either take action or not, and that this is where we start to step through that barrier of what can sometimes become victimization and realize, no, it's within my power to how I choose to deal with external situations and circumstances. So I can choose to play the victim, or I can step into courageously being the hero of my own story, because I'm the only one living my life. No one's living my life for me, and no one is living your life for you. And so we each are the hero in our own story. And to be able to step up and to act like a hero, we have to courageously take responsibility for the actions we choose or choose not to take. All right, so Virgo, we have financial constraints, number 13. And number 13 actually is the number of the death card in the tarot, which is linked to the energy of Scorpio. So there is this, it's kind of interesting, there's this death and rebirth coming through here. And it's interesting that it came through with financial constraints. So there is something here this week that is around what I'm feeling here when we're thinking about taking action. There is something here around I feel like a scarcity mindset, that you're not choosing to take action in some aspect of your experience right now because you're afraid. Because you're afraid of being without. That whatever change you want to make or whatever action you want to take, that it's so focused on money and not maybe losing money or making a change or taking action towards something that might unlock some of those beautiful plants, some of those beautiful seeds within yourself, because you fear that it will not, either it'll end up taking money or taking your resources, or that in you moving towards that, it's taking you away from something else that you're currently, I feel, kind of being sustained by. There's also this element here of perhaps needing to invest in something, whether it's investing in going back to school, or it's investing in, let's say you're trying to get a business off the ground and it's investing in a website design, or investing even just time into something, that there's this quality here coming through of, but I don't have enough. And it's almost like having like one foot in and one foot out of something, where like you really want to go for something, but you're holding yourself back. And I mean, this could even be when I'm thinking about just having, because the scarcity mindset's what's really coming through here, is I don't have enough. I don't have enough to do what I would like to take action on. And that can even come through in love or romantic relationships, where you just have one foot in and one foot out. I don't want to commit 100%. Or because I've been hurt previously, even though I really want to get out there and do it again, I am going to do so again with that barrier up. And so I'm not going to go in 100% and show my sweet, mushy self. I'm going to, have my barrier up. And when we have our barrier up, whether it's starting a business and needing to invest in it, or whether it's in love, it's about realizing that, again, I really feel like the message coming through is stepping into that hero mentality of it's your life. And if you're the hero in your own story, only you can save you. No one can save us. We have to make the decision courageously to save ourselves. And that's really where, when I talk about being the hero in your own story, that's what it comes down to. We are the Superman. We are the Spider-Man. We are the Batman. There is no external Spider-Man, Batman, Superman that's going to come and save us. We have to do that ourselves. And so if we want to make the decision to move towards something that's going to help unlock some aspect of ourselves that we're feeling held back from or that we're feeling cut off from, we have to break down that barrier and go in 100%. So if this is moving towards love, or if this is moving towards a new business venture, or if this is making the decision to buy a home or commit to a job. This could even be where maybe you took a job and you're like, yeah, I took it, but I don't know if I really want to do it. And it's like, well, you said yes, you committed to it. So it's one of these things where it's like, you got to go all the way in with whatever you're doing. Break down that hard protective barrier and bring your mushy self in there, because that's what's actually going to allow those seeds to be able to plant. When you commit, that's when you're going to actually be able to transform. You're going to kind of have to go through a little bit of this, cutting off that barrier, exposing the wound, and transforming a little bit. You know, when you think about a melon, if you take the skin off and just leave it sitting there, it's not going to hold its shape for very long. That mushy center is going to start to kind of move and melt a little bit and start to break down, and then again, that's where the seeds come out. So this week, have courage to go 100% and realize that in doing that, you're transforming yourself, you're evolving, you're growing, and you're moving past whatever I feel really is causing you to feel like you're in a place of victimization right now, or I don't even know, like that you're basically a victim of something, that you feel like your power is being taken away by something external, when in reality, you always have the power within yourself, whether it's to change your perspective, whether it's just at the very base level to change your perspective of something, that's within your control. But really, I feel this week it's about taking action towards becoming aware of breaking down that barrier, either stepping back into your body or stepping back out into the world, and then allowing that transformation to happen that's been waiting to happen, and allow yourself to commit. Allow yourself 100% to embody whatever you feel at this moment you'd like to, but you're too afraid to. All right, so it's funny, these messages are coming through very clearly from you, Virgo. I hope I'm expressing them clearly because they are really coming through for you. All right, so Virgo, now we're going to step into pulling a card here for the concept of contemplation. And this is where we move from from conscious action into active reflection. And this is where we really break through any type of stagnancy in our life, because now we are becoming actively aware in the moment. So we are actively reflecting on the direct, immediate consequences or reactions from the actions we choose to take. And this allows us to be able to see, okay, was that a good consequence or a bad consequence? Was that a good reaction or a bad reaction? And this allows us in the moment to adjust our actions. If we got a great response, well, great. That allows us to realize, okay, having the courage to take that action or take more actions in line with that positive consequence. But if it's not a positive consequence or it's a negative reaction, then that's where we have to go kind of back to starting the Triad of Engagement, to be curious about, okay, why did it not come out the way that I wanted? And now how can I alter my actions in the next round here to possibly get a different response? And this is where we get to really take personal responsibility for the consequences of our actions. Ooh, all right, wow, all that wants to come out. Okay, I will let it. And we get to take responsibility for the consequences of our actions, but we also get a chance to learn, to self-educate through our direct experience with life, because we're constantly realizing, okay, that didn't work, or this part of myself can be better expressed in this way, or the next time I do that, this is how I will take action. And that's what allows us to not get stuck in repeat patterns where we're constantly doing something that has a negative consequence or reaction and we are not seeing it, we're not aware of it. So we move from curiosity to courage and conscious action, and then we move into contemplation, which is active reflection. Okay, so wow, lots of cards here. We have share your voice. It says come out of the cave, persecution, expression. We have sisterhood of the rose, beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher. And then we have Lemuria, creating heaven on earth. It's happening. And we have trust your path. If you knew you'd be supported, what would you do? So to go over that again, we have share your voice, sisterhood of the rose, Lemuria, and trust your path. So there's this quality here of coming through very clearly that there is something here that you need to share. That with beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher, that there's something here that Spirit is asking you to bring awareness to, because it's something that you're going to be able to share or teach others. And what trumps this all of this is the trust your path. If you knew you'd be supported, what would you do? And I think that that's one of these beautiful, what a great place to contemplate. It's almost like, I always love when people are like, well, if you won the lottery, like, what would you do? And when you think about that, whatever response comes through in that is really, people will sit there and come up with all kinds of things. But there is truth in that response. So let's say you ask yourself, okay, if you knew you'd be supported, what would you do? Meaning, if you won the lottery, or your idea of if you really had every support in the world, financial, familial, friendly, if you had every type of support that you knew, no matter what you did, you would have everything that you felt you needed to be happy and to feel fulfilled and to feel abundant. So if you won the lottery, what would you do? If your first statement is, I'd quit my job, and I always wanted to blah, blah, blah. Is it travel? Is it I always wanted to own a winery and I would go buy a winery? Or I always wanted to be an astronaut, but because I can't be an astronaut, I would go knocking on Elon Musk's door and see if I could get a job, working at a SpaceX. Or I've always wanted to take time off and write the great American novel. Or I would go and buy the home of my dreams that my entire family could come to. Or I would sell my home and travel the world and become a nomad. And whatever it is, that whatever response comes up when you contemplate on that question is really what you can actually manifest for yourself through your actions. It tells you something about what you really want and where you really feel that because you don't have the money, because there's financial strains, or because some aspect of your life you feel is lacking because you're coming from it from a limiting perspective, that there's this element that comes through here of, well, yeah, and if I won the lottery, I'd do that. And it's like, no, you can start to move towards that today. So let's say, this is actually a personal example of myself. So if you were to ask me, what would I do if I won the lottery? Well, first of all, I'd be doing this, but I'd be doing it full time. I'd be putting more stuff out there because I feel like I had more time, but I've always also wanted to have my own winery. I love wine. I think it's incredible, not just to drink, but also as a creative art form. And I would love to do that. Now, I don't have to wait to win the lottery. I may never have the opportunity to own my own winery, but that doesn't have to stop me from taking small steps in the moment, like taking a course on viticulture, or buying a book that allows me to learn more about some of the greatest wine production places, Or it doesn't stop me from planning a trip to one of my favorite wine regions for next year. All of these things keep me engaged with a dream, with a hope, with something that, when I think of it, makes me feel like I won the lottery. And there's this quality coming through here for you guys of not wanting to allow yourself to really feel into something, again, because of that barrier. And what's interesting, though, really strongly that's coming through is whatever you're being asked to step into and kind of realize is it's meant to be shared with others, and it's part of creating. When it says creating heaven on earth, it's happening. It's meant to help create what you would feel is your heaven on earth. And I've talked about this in previous videos where I've said that, everybody's vision of heaven is different. No two people have the same needs and wants and desires. People can have similar needs and wants and desires, but not exactly the same. So if you'd ask 2 or 200 million different people what their idea of heaven is, every single person would have something that's different. So when we talk about creating heaven on earth, it's about creating your vision of heaven on earth. So if you won the lottery today, or if you could create your own heaven on earth, what would be involved in that? And start working towards that. So this is a great point of contemplation for you to kind of integrate this whole message for the week. What part of yourself do you kind of need to engage with again to jumpstart that feeling of, wow, if I got a chance to do this, that would be amazing. And start to just take action steps in that sphere. And that's going to help break that barrier down, help you start to kind of get back into, I'm the hero of my story, I'm not the victim, and engage you with something that's just fun. And start to get past that limiting mindset and start to get into that curious mindset of, well, what if? Spirit's bringing this to my attention now. Why? What is within me in being vulnerable and committing 100% to a dream, a hope, a wish, and committing to that? What am I meant to unlock? And what am I meant to actually, when this card comes up, there's this element that comes through for me of connecting to your spiritual purpose, that whatever seeds are in there, they're meant to be shared on a larger level because they are going to help further the collective experience. All right, Virgo. So, just to give one last example about that. So let's say this is something about, maybe moving towards a creative project or an endeavor. Let's say it's something like, man, if I had won the lottery, I would love to write screenplays for Hollywood. And I would just spend all my time doing that. Well, what is it about that? What would you share? What would be the material within your screenplays that you feel would actually be beneficial to the external environment? Or if you always wanted, for myself personally, like I'll say I wanted to own a winery. Well, what would I do with that? How would that be beneficial? Would I be able to, really work with kind of an ecological mindset? Would I have a beautiful tasting room where I got to entertain people and really bring my passion for the wine world to them and allow them basically be able to educate those people on my passion and something that not everybody knows everything about? Or is this where I could actually end up creating something where maybe I can work with children and the children can come to the winery and learn how to actually hands-on do something that's more agricultural based, hands-on, but then also involves creativity. There are all kinds of things that we don't even realize that in moving towards a hope or a dream that and in moving towards our true spiritual destiny, that we don't know the bigger picture. That's where we have to stay curious and tap into optimism about what we don't know and why we're being asked to engage certain parts of ourselves with our external environment. We don't know, it could be something as simple as we just want to do something because it's a dream or it just makes us feel good. And the more that we act into that, the more we start to realize, wow, it opens this door and that door and this door and that door. And I really feel, Virgo, that you need to hear this message right now, that even if you move towards something with the expectation that this is going to happen, be prepared that something else might happen instead. But that's the beauty of all of these seeds within yourself, that as you plant them, different things will grow, and that eventually have the trust and faith that they will all connect. And that's the spiritual purpose. When I talk about realizing our spiritual potential, it's all those seeds within you that they all get planted and they all connect to align with the bigger picture. All right, Virgo, I know this has been maybe a little esoteric at the end here, but a powerful message coming through about it's time. It's time to commit to something fully, a hope, a dream, a wish, a romantic partnership, whatever it is, and be ready to see how that actually starts to open you up to the next level of your life. You guys are evolving. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. If you'd like to book a personal reading or a live tarot reading, the link to my website is in the description box below. And thank you for allowing me to have a platform where I get to emotionally connect and experience my spiritual purpose through making these videos. Thanks, Virgo. Have a great week.